Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of Mondays with Mooch. On this episode, I sat down with Carlos from Wild on Twos, and we discussed expectations of supporters, and then I answered some questions that some of you had sent me on social media about how supporters should act when out and about. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Please like it, share it, drop a comment. I do apologize. I had some issues with the audio throughout, so there's a little bit of my mic cutting in and out, and then I think it gets a little unsynced at the end. So I apologize for that, but I hope you guys like it. Check it out and let me know what you think. See you guys next week.
Yo, ¿cómo están? It's Wild on Twos here with Mooch. So, Mooch, I know we've been here talking for about an hour by ourselves before hitting the record. But today's topic that we decided to talk about was the expectations of a supporter. And
Right.
a lot of times, just like, I made a video. I think it's probably the biggest video I did, over 500, almost close to 600,000 views. It was supporters being confronted. And the whole thing was about actually a story of a supporter or someone that called themselves a supporter. This is the thing. A lot of time I get these guys that email me and they say they're a supporter. And then, of course, with your experience, you're going to be, it's like, what supporter? What kind of supporter? Of course,
Right.
I didn't know, but he was wearing a shirt and he got confronted by another MC that was a bigger MC of that rival of that supporter. And he kind of just took off, didn't know what to do. And of course, my whole video was about his story and about the roles of a supporter to a point. Of course, I was writing, so my thought for now, I was just kind of just
Right.
talking, and yeah, on the whim. But what do you first off? What do you consider like a real supporter? I mean, you tell me. I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
titles of supporter.
I definitely think there are levels to it, and it even varies by club affiliate, right? So I would say, was it the type of supporter that bought something at a swap meet or at an event or
We're
off the
stuck out.
internet, or is it the type of supporter that was, gifted a support shirt, that's spending time with the club, hanging out, maybe grew up with the guy? There's kind of different levels to the support, and it's important to kind of distinguish that because I think they're going to have different expectations depending on what their role is as a supporter or how tight they are to whatever channel supporting.
Yeah, and it's too. It seems to me that people that start shit on the comment sections are mostly supporters, and not even like a true supporter, are just people that maybe might have said hi to somebody or maybe really like a club, and then they start talking shit, which then leads to issues for the club that they're trying to like kind of support. Because I don't really see, you don't really see too many members talking shit on the. I mean, some guys from the Europe, I think UK, I see some guys mouth off here and there. Other than that, I normally don't see any members really.
Yeah, I think most clubs have rules against it. I know in the regions that I oversaw, we had specific bylaws that we were not allowed to engage in like any sort of internet beef or shit talking. It's not a good look whether you're in a club or not, right? Like even as an individual, it's not a good look. I would agree. I think the biggest issues with stirring the pot is those types of supporters that aren't real close to members because of how far they would be held accountable, right? If it was my buddy, he's wearing support stuff, and I see he's online saying "f this club" and "f that club," I'm going to put him in check. But it's these that actually know members outside of the internet that seem to be the most vocal. Talking, bad mouthing other clubs, stirring the pot, making all sorts of threats. Hey, this is our area. It's usually the type of supporter that outside of the internet doesn't really know anybody, and I think those are the dangerous ones. And I think that's probably the most common when it comes to like internet supporters. But in reality, they're the ones that stir up the most shit, I think.
Yeah, because I remember there's a Facebook page of a MC, kind of about MC culture and one percenters, and I remember that this so-called supporter started talking shit and claiming a certain club, and apparently reported to sent a message of photocopies or a link to a real member of that club, like kind of like almost like snitching or something, and say, "Hey, look at this guy," and all I know is this guy was a big name dude. The member, he's an old school, big history member of this club. And then, of course, you can just see he just does a thumbs up. Probably looked at it and says, "What the hell am I getting called here for?"
Right.
And this supporter is not even. We tracked him down, and it was just some joker that lives in a little podunk town, and I guess he's trying to become a supporter, but he's not a real supporter yet.
And I think the good lesson out of that is everyone should understand as a supporter, no club is under any obligation to back you up or support you in return in any sort of way. So, just because you picked a team, so to speak, or bought a shirt, doesn't mean you're getting their support or their backup. Doesn't give you the carte blanche to just get online and start running your mouth.
So here, I want to bring this up because, so what if I'm wearing my support shirt and I go to a bike night and I
Right.
just run into apparently a rival club of this. But okay, let's start off from at the bottom. I got this shirt at a charity, and it's a support shirt, right? And I don't know too much about MC stuff, and then I'm getting confronted. What do I just say? Hey, I'm not part of this, or and of course they're going to talk shit, and then what the fuck are you wearing this shit for? And I mean, what's the proper thing to do? Of course, I have my thing, but
Right.
that's what I'm.
I think that goes back to that initial, like, what are the, right? Like, hey, like you said, this guy got this, not really knowing what he's supporting. There's a pretty major club out there that you can get their stuff pretty, it's a common name. And, I've seen a lot of people throw on that stuff, just thinking, oh, it's cool. It's biker culture, it's club culture, and not understanding where they're at versus, someone that knows and got the support shirt. For the most part, those people should know what area they're wearing their support shirts in, right? Like, what the club is there. If the club you're supporting has issues and who they have issues with. Like, you're gonna have that knowledge. If you're the guy that doesn't know better, as a member, I think you can pick up on that pretty quick. Like, you're gonna know who doesn't realize what they're wearing and where they're at.
Yeah, because I mean,
Uh,
I've seen it before that some gut members are very nice and say, "Hey, do you know where you're at?"
yeah,
And and maybe tell them take the shirt off. Right there's some guys that'll say take the shirt off around here. At that point, if you're that person that just got it from a charity or bought it, just turn around and get the hell out.
I agree. And I would also say this, man, and this is just from the club perspective. I've never agreed with or supported bullying supporters.
Mhm.
For many different reasons. But say you're supporting a I don't get along with. Now I'm buying. Now I'm pushing that whole narrative that they're already selling to them. Right? Oh, these bullies, they're the bad guys. Then you just made yourself the bad guy.
Correct.
Further and better it'd be if you just said, hey, like you said, it's potentially, hey, what area you're in, or hey, where'd you get the shirt, whatever. You can have a rational civil conversation without bullying a supporter, because
Yeah,
I've always said, like, hey, if people in another club, take it up with the other club, but don't get
and
the
and that's
supporter
the whole
involved.
thing. And at that point, that club can actually be stand up, educate the person, and wish that guy a good night. Now his view probably changes
Right.
about that club. It,
And
it
that's
can
bigger picture, it'll go a longer way for sure.
it'll go a way longer way if the guy goes, "Hey, come with me a second." And I'm just telling you, I can kind of talk to him one on one almost, right? You talk to them, say, "Hey, I'm going to try to help you out. Maybe you don't understand." Because some guys here may have, they're drinking or something. It might not turn out, that well for some people. Depends where you're at. So my thing is that I mean, myself, I would see it so differently that I might just obviously take leave, find that club member maybe somehow, and maybe approach them and, hey, could you teach me the right way?
Right.
Or could I just, do what I can to try to learn? And
Versus making an instant enemy, right? If now say the other card and you bullied the guy, now you made an instant enemy. So I
yeah,
definitely think that's a good picture. As far as the role of the support, like you said, if you don't know, say you bought it because you've heard of the club and you picked it up online, you're excited to wear it. I get that happens. You know, it really comes down to how you're going to act as a person, right? So if the other club comes up to you and all of a sudden you get all puffy chested, kind of have a chip on your shoulder, I'm sure you can imagine how that's likely going to play out for you. But if you're humble and it just say, hey, I'm in the motorcycle culture, I don't know, whatever, I picked this shirt up. That's the way I think people should approach it. It doesn't make you a punk. It doesn't make you a lame. Just be a man about it, right? Just
well,
stand up, be a man.
as,
I think people will respect that. At the end of the day, it all comes down to just being a grown ass man. And I know you and I and a lot of people like us are going to respect anyone that's full back.
well, it's like you said. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're honest, like honesty is like, shit, I didn't know, I didn't mean to offend you. Of course, I don't know too much about this. Like you said, I picked this up here. Of course, if the person's beefing up, I can say, hey, put this aside. Of course, I can always step up as a man, but at a certain point, honesty is always straightforward. A majority of people, most MC members are not assholes. Most of
Right.
them they're actually more just assholes to their own prospects.
Yeah.
But
And no one
than
wants to
anything
be
else,
disrespected, right? No one wants to be disrespected, especially in public. So if you handle it with respect and explain that you didn't know better, I see that going well. Um, I would say on the opposite end of the spectrum, say you're closer to a hang around or you're at the club and you're going to something you know you're likely going to see someone issue with, then you need to know what you signed up for. Like that to me is a totally different ball
Yeah,
game.
that's my next question.
Yeah,
Because now you're rolling into, let's say you're now there's the friend of the club, right? Type of guy. The friend of the club, you may know somebody from the club, get a support shirt from a member of that club. And now it's the same thing almost as the first person. Know where you're at, understand the situation, and who you're trying to represent.
and how
Because,
you represent them even.
yeah, because at this point, you're not part of the club. You're not part of the club itself. And what does the shirt? I mean, are you willing to risk something for that shirt? And then, what would you suggest that person do if he gets confronted by um, a rival MC?
Yeah, I mean, to that one, I would, if you knew what was going to happen, I'm sure you have an outcome in mind, right? But I would still, personally, I would still be as respectful as possible. But I'm standing too. Like at this point, I'm going to take it as more of a threat. I know the danger. I know what's going on. So my tone may be a little different, but I'm still going to relatively be polite and be respectful. The last thing I'm going to do is just out of the blue notch it up. Like I'm not taking this off, and or help or ask for backup. I said before, being a supporter doesn't garner you any sort of support from the club that you're supporting. So no one's going to come help you. No one's going to come save you. And I think having that mindset going is important and what's relevant. Like knowing, hey, I might, and if they come up to me, here's how I'm going to handle it.
Yeah. So then, one of the things that I noticed too is, for a supporter, oh, man, I'm trying to word this question without going into a slippery slope. I can't. So I can't answer that question. No, but as a supporter itself, someone that obviously should know better and get it. Then one of the questions I get from commenters all the time is, could you support more than one club?
Oh, that's a good question.
I get that one a lot. Of course, my thing is, well, yes and no, right? If you're an official support for a club, no, right? I mean, you can go support another like riding club's event. You can go support another club's event, but to be wearing, let's say, a shirt of an MC saying I'm a supporter, but then I go to the next state and just wear the shirt from that state. I mean,
Right.
that
That's
that
where I
that's
would
a
draw
little
the line.
different,
I would say not wearing support stuff, support everybody, right? Be cool
right?
with, get in where you fit in, be cool with everybody. And, lack of a better term, but once you get that T-shirt, picking your team, so to speak, and you're going to stick with that team. It's definitely not a good look, and I think probably not well respected in our community if you're seeing wearing multiple support shirts.
Well, and the other thing, one of the things I'll tell someone new is, do not jump so quickly to wear that shirt.
Right.
I tell guys all the time that it's the first club they met. They don't know where they belong or what they want to do, what kind of club, if it's a big MC riding club, and then they meet a club, and then of course, you want to sometimes fit in. Even though guys say that they're, lone wolves and everything, a lot of guys have the mentality, almost like a pack, right? Not everybody, but like if you played sports or did any type of athletics, you're used to a group of guys, or if you're in the military. So sometimes some guys feel good being around other guys, and they try to fit in and they act like someone they're not. So that's one of the things I tell people before you start wearing a shirt. Understand who you're talking to, get to know them as a club, do as much as you can, and then see other clubs before you really say that you're like,
Right. I
choosing
think the
them as a.
hard part too is if you're not in our scene, it's probably hard to comprehend, right? It's a team. And being in it, for as long as that we've been in it, you can kind of get jaded on it, kind of forget. But I'll tell you, I remember what it was like when I got my first support shirt, how proud I was of it. Like it meant the world to me, man. And when I walked out, I so I do want to appreciate and understand the and the feeling of getting that support shirt. But like you said too, or we've been saying, it depends on how you got it and
But
your area and the knowledge that comes with it.
But it's so true that you said that. You saying that got me goosebumps thinking of the first support shirt I
Right,
it's so true. I'm talking shit saying, "Hey, don't put it on this and that." Man, I remember the first support shirt. They told me not to put it on right then and there. I went home and I just put it on
right,
at the house. I remember, I was just excited and stuff and couldn't wait to get back out. So of course, I can look back now that you said that as someone that, it gets excited. It's a good feeling to a point that some people may accept you, like you, or at least to be around, right?
for sure. And
And it's
when you
not.
get that shirt, where do you want to wear it at? The Harley dealership, the bike night, where I'm going to see other bikers. So, I definitely understand of being excited to wear it and wanting to wear it, and then coming into potential for wearing it.
Yeah, and that's when sometimes I think people wear blinders, that they're blinded by that excitement. That next thing you know, you literally just walked right through maybe a rival club or somebody that you're not paying attention, especially at a Harley event where
Right.
there's. But I mean, of course, you can't be. I mean, majority of cities that are bigger cities, m- if you're wearing a support shirt, most likely it's, if you want to use the word dominant or something. Like I said, I don't like saying that, but it's most likely of the bigger club of that area.
Right.
So most likely you'll be okay anywhere you go at that point. But when you're traveling and visiting maybe family in another city, another state, and you're by yourself and you're wearing that, just at that point, you still need to kind of make sure what you're doing.
And that you bring that up, I've actually been asked that a lot. So there a lot of supporters online have hit me up over the years. They're comfortable wearing it in the area where they're from, the chapter they support. Say, hey, I'm going on this vacation or this long ride. Do you suggest I wear it? And my answer is always the same. That like we've been saying this whole time is with the knowledge of what's going on, what the current politics are, and where you're at. If you're intelligent enough to know what's going on, you can probably say. If you're going to be naive and throw that support shirt on or patch on, and just go into other men's houses essentially, then yeah, like we said, it all comes back to respect. And at some point, someone's going to take it disrespectful if you're flying a flag in their area.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to look at both sides. No matter if you care for the other members or other clubs, if someone was in your backyard and you're in the club and you feel disrespected, uh, a lot of members won't do it. A lot of members won't ride through certain cities and states with their colors without really planning it.
Right.
Without a plan. And so they kind of have to, like you said, it's a wide range. It's like we're throwing a casting net because the word supporter, there's so many people that support certain clubs, and I don't sometimes think they ever even met someone from that club. And you see these guys posting like they buy shirts, like there's some clubs out there that do sell merch to anybody publicly,
Yeah.
and that it's huge funding for them, and they wear the shirts everywhere. So that's one of the ones that, or the funny one was, um, it's like a outlaw shirt, like outlaw shirt. It just says outlaw shirts. It's a company,
Right.
but people are wearing that, and then it's up to the members because there was a problem that members from other clubs thought that was a support shirt for that club.
Right.
And but at that point, they have to be smarter than that. Really pay attention to the shirt. You can see the signs that it's not. And then back to where you're saying it's at the end of the day, no matter what it's true or not, you should always respect and walk up to somebody and give them at least a chance to see what's going on. If they understand the situation they got it themselves into, educate. It's always the biggest thing. If you can educate somebody, you don't have to sell anybody on anything.
Right. I
You're
think it's
educating.
to be a supporter. I think it's really important to know a member you're supporting, and I don't mean that as far. I can like a club, I can like what they stand for, but when it comes to wearing the patch or the T-shirt and going out, this is why it best to know a member, right? Because if you ask me where can I wear this or where should I can give you an honest and straightforward answer. If you're getting on eBay and buying a shirt and just out wearing it in your community, you may not matter. So this is where we're talking about kind of levels of supporter, but really it benefits you to have a relationship with in the club you're supporting so that you can know these do's and don'ts. So you can ask these questions and you know what's acceptable and what's not.
Well, it's like you said, if I ever gave out a support shirt, most likely I gave it to someone who I thought is interested in the club and has been around a little bit.
Right.
My next thing is most likely I already spoke to them one on one what to do with that shirt, like you're saying, what not to do with that shirt, where to wear it, where not to wear it. So
Yeah.
usually they're not the ones causing issues. Those type of supporters. Same thing as, hang-arounds and stuff. They should been spoken to accordingly. But let's say that I am a supporter and I just got myself caught up that these MCs catch me up on the street or something. I'm on a light and they see me with a support shirt and confront me. What should be my steps there? I mean, of course, I know what I'll do. But
Right. Yeah. I mean that's going to be a slippery slope.
and what's the and of course we don't like saying protocol on that, but what are they supposed to go um say something to the club that they're supporting? I know because people are asked that all the time. Or, do they stand their ground and then get their ass kicked for that club? I mean, it's a personal thing. It's what you stand for. At that point, I mean, you are who you are.
And the hard part with that is there's so many supporters that want to prove themselves, make impress members, right? So a lot of times we get those stories of, hey, they told me to take it off and I didn't. And then as a member, we dig into it, find out it never happened. And it's super dangerous. And understand, yeah, they think they're doing this to make themselves look better. But what they don't understand is, like I said, the club support a supporter. But if I gave you a support shirt and you're attacked because you're wearing a shirt that I gave you, support you. I'm going to back you up on this. So if you're going to drag to a mess where I could potentially be arrested or get hurt because you were trying to sound cool or look cool, you ain't wearing my support stuff anymore. So there's also like having that awareness of what's expected versus knowing what the outcome could be.
Yeah, because I mean, just like you said, usually the clubs will dig a little bit before anything is done. In regards to, if someone told me that, you dig into it, you hear the other story. Like you said, this guy is no longer going to be supporting because you're not going to jump quick in there without knowing. Because a lot of people try to, like you said, act like the big tough guy to show off
Yes.
for the club. And I can see how some supporters will lie that something happened, never happened. I hear that story all the time. How, oh, I went right by an MC and they're all riding. I went by them, flicked them off, and did it really happen? Probably not.
Well, and I'll give some limited details because it just, I was at a bar recently. I'm no longer in a club, and I was at a bar recently in a support shirt, and all I had said is, "Hey, did you get that from someone local?" I wasn't rude about it. I was just curious, right? He says, "Yes." Go on about our day. Turns out, this guy makes a call and says, "Oh, this guy from this other club told me to take it off. Said we were gonna have to fight for it." Now, enough people in the community know that didn't happen, but you know how dangerous that could have gotten, right? Or what that led up to, and I think that happens probably more than we know. I think what people seem to forget is whether clubs get or disagree. There's always some line of communication, no matter what. So you're not going to come to this other club without me finding out what really happened.
Well, it's just like on the internet. A lot of these guys that talk shit think that since it's on the internet, they're in another state, and they say they know someone. It's a small world. The culture is small. Even if you don't really care for somebody in the other club, there's ways, as you know, that we can communicate with them and figure out if something is true or not. To a
Yep.
point. Um,
Especially if it's creating major conflict, right? Like
yeah.
if you're in a club and you're being told, "Hey, every time one of my supporters goes out, he's getting harassed by your club," there's likely going to be a conversation between those two clubs. And if it comes to it's coming because of you, the supporter, then you're gonna have time, and you're probably not going to be supporting any clubs after that.
Yeah, so I mean, those are my usually because I said like this we can obviously talk for a long time. But of course, I want to. This is not a live show. Maybe we can cut this down, make some segments. Same thing. Talk, different topics another time. Especially like I think we brought up earlier when we were just chatting on what to do when you're invited to an MC for the first time for maybe just a night at their um, clubhouse, an event, and how to really act, or I mean,
And
what to do.
even just going with a club, right? Like say you're a supporter and they invite you on a ride or to a bike night. There's expectations there that also tail into going to the clubhouse, stuff like that. That the proper we said the proper protocol of it or the expectations is probably a better way to put it. If you're especially if you're new and you haven't been around much. And I'm sure there's a lot of questions surrounding stuff like that.
Well, this is my thing. I remember I was Mr. Ask all the fucking questions. First time I was in the club, I asked, "Hey, can I do this?" No? Okay. Hey, could I do what am I not supposed to do? A
Yep.
lot of guys now, for some reason, try to because they watch YouTube, right? They listen to people like us that they think they know what's going on with that club. And every chapter, every club is different than the next one. Just ask that person. They know that you don't know anything. Don't act like you know anything, like much. I usually go into it something, even though if I have experience, if I'm around a different club, I don't know shit. I
Right.
don't,
No,
because
I
everybody
think
runs
that's great
differently.
advice. I
It's
think if say you're invited out, the way I would look at it is the member that invited was my sponsor, right? That's who's putting his name on me. So I'm going to ask him any and all questions that come up, and I think that's a very valuable that you bring up because even if you may think you know, everybody does it different. Chapters do things differently, and wouldn't you rather ask and be told before you do it than make the wrong move and embarrass yourself and embarrass the guy that brought you? A lot to that. So man, over the years I've had a lot of people hang around that are scared to ask or didn't know, and then it comes out. I'm like, man, it would have been a lot easier if you just manned up and asked.
Yeah.
So having that communications is definitely vital to how it's going to go.
I actually respect that. If I heard somebody, I don't care how many questions he asked me, I'll be, at least he's asking before he steps on his dick.
Yep.
That's one of the things that I learned is to ask. Of course, know where you're asking, but not like just out blatantly. But you put, like you said, that one person that you know is like your sponsor or whoever you're close to that club. You should be asking every question you can to learn as much as you can, and keep your head open, and don't think you know anything just because you watch one of something on YouTube or read something on Reddit.
Yeah, I mean, and especially if it's your first or second time coming around, all know how important first or second coming out there and meeting people for the first time or how first impressions are. And if you're going to go out there and make a bunch of mistakes, you know, it's not going to be a good look and you're probably not going to be invited. But if you're, show up and you show humility and you're humble and you talk to and you ask questions, then those are the types of people we want to invite back having around.
One of the things too is what I noticed, like you said, after been around 2 or 3 times, don't act like you've been there 2 or 3 times. Each time you go, it's like be polite, like it's your first time. Don't get cocky and think that they all think you're badass and you're one of them now, even though you're not a member. I've seen guys do that. They're there like 3 times in the clubhouse, and then they're doing shit they're not supposed to. They're getting a little too comfy.
Yeah, being too comfortable has always been the biggest red flag to me. There's little things that go a long way. Me and another member are talking, you're going to keep your distance. I don't care if I'm talking about wrestling and you grew up wrestling, right? It's not your place to jump in unless we ask. But as a hang around or a supporter, you shouldn't be jumping in conversation. You shouldn't be super comfortable. You shouldn't be making jokes or picking on people. That's reserved between me and my brothers, and you that respect right to get into that circle yet. So just again going back to being humble, taking that step back and observing is the best way to be a supporter. Just watch what's going on.
Yeah, I always got in trouble for just the opposite. I joke around a lot, but my thing is I just look too militant, like too security like. Apparently, they didn't like
Yeah.
that. So then, because I wasn't having like a smile on my face, joking around. That's the way I was taught. It was more like quiet, stand there. So
Yeah.
it's all that, and that goes back to every club is different. The club around, like the whoever I was around before was like very kind of
Yeah. I
say
would have
not.
I would have appreciated that. To me, that's the things that I like to see. And it's a fine right? Like if I'm standing there mean mugging everyone, it may escalate a situation. So it's I'm attentive and ready without aggressive, right? So
Right.
finding that balance. But if I like, night and I ask the guys how'd everything go, and they say, hey, did you notice hang around so and so, or hey, that supporter, man, he was on it. He was paying attention to everything. He was kind of in the background. That goes a further way than the guy that was just running his mouth the whole time.
Yeah, because my thing, like I said, I never mean mug anybody on purpose. I just look serious, looking around the situation. Like I said, know how many actions, all this stuff, and I'll just sit there quietly. But then I'll get the old, hey, why is his chest all puffed up? Why,
Right.
shit like that. So I mean, every club is different, like you said, and sometimes it's tough, especially when that's the way you are to a point. And then they want you to be someone else, right? And that's when it goes back to knowing, hanging around a little more to understand the club that you're being around, if it's a right fit or not. And
Some
that's
of
a
that
whole
too is
different
just being
topic.
a new guy. If you're the new guy, no matter what you do is going to be right. Right. You can be
Oh
doing
yeah.
great. You can be doing great security, doing an amazing job. And when you're not around, we'll probably talk about how good you're doing. But to you, we're going to tell you, hey, man,
Oh yeah.
so serious, chill out. I think part of that too is just the totem on the new guy.
Oh yeah, and then I tell a lot of guys don't, because when you're hanging around, man, everybody's all cool as shit, right? Once you start prospecting, it's like 180, a
Right.
lot of 180, and a lot of people take really personal offense on that.
There's
And
sleepless nights attached to that, for a fact.
yeah, so yeah, but either or, like I said, we can go too many topics, but that was the topic today about the supporter expectations. Do you want to leave with anything top of your mind about the expectations of a supporter?
I just most important part is be humble and ask questions, like we've said, and then have that awareness of, hey, if I'm going to support these guys, who do they get along with, who don't they, and who's big in my area. Like you don't want to pick a club that's on the East Coast and you're on the West Coast and you're going to start wearing their stuff that you bought on the internet to local events. So know what you're wearing or what you're presenting, and then like I
Yeah.
said, for the most part, if you really want to be a supporter, up to a member and try and build a relationship with a member. I think that's going to go the furthest, and that's going to help you the most.
And one of the things that's kind of interesting, though, that of course technology I think ruins a lot, but I think with all the technology and people watching and talking and listening to a lot of guys that are in clubs, you would think a lot of people know a little more. And you see that because in the supporters in the comment section actually say a lot of things like if they've been around clubs, but they're not. And that's mostly the things they get on YouTube. So it's a catch 22 because they are learning and
Right.
understanding some things, understanding what maybe they shouldn't wear, what they shouldn't do. But for some reason, that's when the keyboard warriors kick in. And it's like I keep saying, it's a catch 22. At the end of the day, you can't learn all this shit on YouTube. We can say whatever we want. The best thing to do is go out there. If you're interested in a club, go try to find that club. And it's not easy always finding the club that you may want to look for. And then those are the times that we have to see where to go, right? You can go to the Harley events, you can look up charities, poker runs, look for areas that you may see other club members at, bike nights, and then kind of just hang around, let them see you being around the scene a little bit. And then maybe if you want to approach someone. Don't be scared to go ask, say, hey, shake your hand. You'd be surprised how club members really love to talk about their history, or just talk a little bit general about themselves because they have pride in their club.
And telling stories,
Mhm.
stuff, history from the road, stuff like that goes a long way. I think a caveat is, and where supporters get in trouble is, they're humble the first time and then they're a know-it-all to other supporters. There's no hierarchy to supporters, right? So just because you've been to a party doesn't mean you know more than the other guy. Doesn't mean the guy supporting online. There's nothing different between any of you. So I think to understand is to not act like you know everything and start preaching to other supporters, telling them how it is, or hey, I'm a special supporter, or I have this relationship. That's when I see people really get hung up, is when they start trying to talk like they're an authority, like they're a supporter with authority, and that's not a thing. So as long as you stay and kind of, lack of a better term, know your place, I think people will fit in a lot better.
Well,
It's when
you
they
know
step
this
out of
one.
bounds.
I always compare it to jujitsu in regards that you have guys who rush to go through the belts, get their stripes, try to do everything they can to do something to get someone's view thinking that they deserve that next step and belt. But if you just take the journey to do what you got to do, you'll get there eventually. It's a marathon.
I think
It's
that's
not
a
a
great
sprint.
analogy. It's a great analogy. We think when we both started, we're all guilty of this, right? White belt, you're brand new.
Oh
Who
god, yeah.
posts who posts the most about jujitsu? The new guy, right? Who's making all the memes? The new guy. And it's the same exact thing with clubs. You're that supporter. Who's that like active, all on social talking about the club? That supporter. So I think that's a really good analogy, man, because both people are the really same spot.
Oh, trust me, I tell the story all the time. I don't think I told you that. I remember because I was at white belt. I was destroying some people, and of course, um, the professor, pulls me over and he just whipped my ass. In 30 seconds, I'm tapping like 20 times or something, right?
Right.
And then same thing goes. A couple weeks later, I noticed that I think it was a couple weeks later, a month later, I did a tournament, won my division, and I was like expecting to get some promotion. Nothing happened. I think he saw that in my face, and one day he just calls me out, throws his belt at me, and he puts my white belt on, with a couple stripes on there, and I put his black belt on, whoop my ass again. He says, "Did that help you?" No, because the belt does not really show what you know or what your potential is or what you have in you in regards like that's the steps that took to get that black belt was
Yep.
a marathon of over 10 years of experience. compared to me thinking I had experience or thinking I can do something in that level and I can't.
Yep. And just like how the new white belts are trying to coach everybody, teaching everyone, it's the same. It's the same with supporters, and it's the exact same concept of you earn it in stages. You put in the work, and you're rewarded for the work you put in, and then the pat your hand it is that you earned it, and that's where you got there. So there's no shortcut.
We should say that saying for prospecting of what's an MC member? What was that saying about like a black belt? It's just an older white belt or something. Oh
Yeah.
no, a white belt that never gave up.
Yep. It's a
That's
white
what
belt
it
that never
is.
gave up.
A black belt's a white belt that never gave up. So you guys, viewers, same thing. An MC member is a prospect that never gave up.
Because you never stop prospecting, and that's that's a really good point, and it goes, it still feeds into our, because if you're you're a supporter, then the next step is hang around, and then you go into prospect, then you go member. But the fact of being humble, asking, staying in your lane, and not acting out of bounds is the exact same no matter what level you're at. So if you can stick to being a grown man with goals and questions and have some humility, you're going to be good at all levels. But if you jump into it and thinking you know everything, you're not going to make it very far.
All right, guys, this has been 35 minutes. I think it's been a good topic, a little talk about the expectations of supporter. We get a lot of questions all the time about that, especially after that video of mine in the comment section. Probably do a part 2 of that ride one day. Till next week, much love and respect. Peace.